Welcome back, Saucers.
2023. Raise your hand if you thought you were going to live this. We're in a giggly mood. We're keep going.
Oh yeah, we had one false start just a minute ago with this intro. It took a turn, and then we almost repeated it just now. So that's why we're laughing.
But still, you know what I mean? Like, I think at the end of this is what we're trying to convey here.
Yes.
If you don't understand us.
Yeah, we just really don't want to be misunderstood. That's our biggest pet peeve.
Oh, God. We don't want to be misunderstood. God, no one knows what we're talking about. Basically, what we're trying to say is another year.
Don't give up on us.
Don't give up on us. We're not going to give up on you. We are still here. We're all in this together, and this is a new year, and it's going to be good things, and it's going to be some rocky roads ahead, and that is why we have Jordan Shomer, our resident astrologer here to navigate and guide us through these ups and downs. And she has a lot of good insight.
Yeah, and I like how she has a lot of good insight that actually ties in what we've all been going through in the last 2 years into this year. Yeah. So you can have a little more context as opposed to just hearing what's ahead and it being kind of in the abyss. Yeah. So this is a really good conversation with her.
And I mean, every year she always gets it right. I mean,
she does.
Like, we have the receipts.
Like, down to, she said the week before George Floyd was murdered.
It was like 2 days.
2 days before. We had it. Yep. And she said, she's like, there's going to be some type of revolution. She doesn't, she's not predicting the future, but she said uprising of the people and revolution were the words used. And that happened. And then last year's review, we always do this look ahead at the top of the year. And she did it okay, in March, this might be happening. And in September, and it happened. So, tune in.
So without further ado, Jordan Shomer.
Welcome back, Jordan, our permanent recurring guest on the pod.
Permanent guest every episode from now on. This is the Jordan Show.
Yep, exactly.
Don't tempt me. Do not tempt me. I will accept.
Also, Jordan, there's like a couple astrology podcasts I listen to. I'm sure I found them through you, but you're like a guest on them for like the month. There's oh my gosh.
Oh, Girl in the Galaxy.
Yes.
And then Kate's podcast.
Yes. I listened to that. And then when she's like, oh, Jordan's on, I'm like, and I play it like 2 times over just to like have your voice in my apartment.
That's so sweet.
So, super creepy. But anyway, I love you. Thank you for coming back. And every year, well, this is like the 3rd year I think we've done this with you, a look at the year ahead. And let me tell you, because last year for 2022, I took notes on what you said, and you're correct. And you're always spot on. And it's not like you always make note, like it's not like you're predicting the future, but it's like themes that will come up through the year and things that you might notice. And you're always in tune with this. And so it makes it every year it's that much more fun because it's like, this is real. Like every time you tell us what it's going to look like, it does. So
I'm like racking my brain. I was like, what did I say?
I know. I actually don't have my notes. I'm at Alyssa's, but we're living it. So. It happened. But so looking at 2023, because I think a lot of people are still like, I'm still processing 2020 and maybe 2019.
2021.
And here we are.
Yeah.
But each year, the last that we've done with you, so looked at 2020, 2021, 22. What? I don't know. We've maybe done 4 with you. It's like each year has such a distinct personality. And what would you say that this year is? What's the personality type?
INFJ.
To me, this year feels like a peek into a new world order. Because we, back in October, we began a Mars retrograde. So Mars started moving backwards in the sign of Gemini, which is why we've sort of been in this collective holding pattern. When Mars moves backwards, Mars is a planet of action and impulse. And when the ocean ebbs and flows, when it ebbs, it kind of sucks all the energy back into itself to then output again. That's exactly the sensation of Mars retrograde. And so we're in this this collective ebb where all of our energy is swelling into us, and Mars is in the sign of Gemini. And so this energy is being brought in and we are asking questions.
Mm-hmm.
Our energy and our sort of like forward motion, our action is being taken on an internal space. And so we're being given a million questions without a single answer. And Mars will become direct on the 12th. So January 12th, Mars will move forwards again, but there is a significant gap between questions and answers. And so that period of Mars retrograde, or the shadow of Mars retrograde, so we'll still kind of feel the like effects of it
for like 2 weeks.
The way I describe it is like, when Mars is retrograde, we are revising, reorganizing, redoing. And so Mars in Gemini is kind of a tornado person, like a person who goes about their, let's say, their household duties, but they leave like a wake of debris in their path. And this is a period of time where we are going back and we have to kind of clean up after ourselves. We're kind of reorganizing, putting things back. And so
during the Mars retrograde?
Pardon?
During the Mars retrograde, or after, you mean?
During Mars retrograde. Yeah, we're kind of gaining a new perspective because we're seeing things where they should be, quote unquote, if we're doing the redoing, reorganizing, all of that.
Right.
But when Mars exits Gemini and exits the shadow, it won't be until March of this year, of 2023, March 25th to be exact.
Okay.
But when our energy is truly oriented outward because of Mars leaving its shadow, we will be entering a completely new world. Because at the beginning of March, Saturn, which we've talked about at length, hanging out in Aquarius, shaking up the status quo, breaking with convention, will move into Pisces. And we haven't seen the energy of Mars in Pisces in 29 years. Whoa. And as Mars moves forward again through Cancer, Pluto, the planet of power and destruction and death and rebirth, will move into Aquarius. And we haven't seen the energy of Pluto and Aquarius since 1778.
Really?
From 1778 to 1799. Pluto moves agonizingly
very slow. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And with this big shift, we're being in Pisces and Aquarius, the last two signs of the zodiac. They are the signs that are not of this world. The world we live in currently, this capitalistic, patriarchal, sort of like run by the government, run by corporations, run by the hierarchy. This world we live in is built in the image of Capricorn. And so the last two signs, Aquarius, the sign of the future, and Pisces, the sign of when it all dissolves back into itself, you know,
it's me and my dad.
Grand finale.
The grand finale.
God. Oh God. Is it meant to sound as scary? Kind of like it?
No, it's really just like the natural progression of things. Everything will end and everything will begin again.
Right. And like what we've been in, the image of Capricorn has been quite scary.
Yeah.
Well, this is, with Saturn and Pisces, which is going to be such a huge influence for us in the culture over the next 3 years. Saturn is all about structure, and Saturn is a builder. Pisces is the vision and the dream. And for this period of time, it is essential for us to do the work of dreaming, because how can you build something without the vision? Before there's a blueprint, there's an idea, or there's a dream, or there's, the essence, the idea, the pricklings of something. And that's sort of where we are. And I know we talked about last year, I believe, or 2 years ago when Jupiter moved into Pisces for the first time. And we were talking about the influence on Jupiter when it comes to creativity and art and media and just like entertainment at large.
Yeah.
And the platform for us to dream the impossible dream and really sort of like allow our visions to conjure a sensation of hope for us all. And that happened, you know, that summer with Jupiter and Pisces is why we ended up in lockdown last December, you know, because we were footloose and fancy free, having a good time, hugging and kissing each other. And then we didn't have the infrastructure for that.
Right.
But this is a different world. So now with Saturn moving into the dreamy sign of Pisces, it's time to start the dreaming.
Yeah.
You know, it's time to allow the visions to come to life.
It's kind of like
also a reminder that the dream and the intangible and like the memory before something comes into life is such a necessary spot.
Yeah.
Which is why I also feel as though the artists, the poets, the writers, the creators have always been the prophets. You know, we prophesize from a place of dreaming. We channel, we download, and the creatives filter that into their work. And then, you know, years later, decades later, centuries later, like, I don't know if anyone's read any Octavia Butler recently, but it's like, she wrote this in the 90s, but it feels like, you know.
And honestly, there's like a lot of sci-fi movies that's happened with in the last couple of years too. And just like, not so weird.
I always think about, because now since Saturn has been in Aquarius, and we talked about this before, aliens are part of the conversation.
Yes.
We're talking about them.
Yep.
Just wait until Pluto moves into Aquarius. That's when we're gonna.
That's
we're gonna meet our people.
Yes.
Well, I don't know if we'll get to meet them, but I think that we'll know more. We'll have sort of closer contact. Anyway.
Yeah. When is Pluto? What month is that? You said
beginning, right?
So Pluto will move into Aquarius for just a few months next year. It'll I think we'll move back in May. So it's just like a short period of time from, I think, March to May. And then we have the last vestiges of Pluto in Capricorn, which I think will get a little bit scary.
Yeah.
As far as like the last dying breaths of an old guard.
Yeah.
And then Pluto will officially move into Aquarius in 2024.
Gotcha. Okay.
Wow.
So because it seemed, I don't know, I feel like 2020 obviously shook everything up and everything. We needed a reset in so many ways in the structure of our society, but it wasn't going to happen on its own. So that kind of instigated that. And now all these institutions, like all these careers are suddenly remote and work from home. And we don't actually need it in all these fields that was like, no, we can't do that remotely. Like we've had 2 years to wrap our mind around that. And now everybody, I don't know. I feel like, and we're in LA, so it's a little different, but I feel like it's way more common now to just what people do for work is like, oh yeah, I'm kind of from home. I work for this company, or I'm freelance, or everything's just like a lot more free form. Yeah. And it took, I know it started in 2020, but now I feel like we've had 2 years to kind of wrap our mind around it. And then it sounds like what you're saying is 2023, we're able to kind of like, we're enough settled into that new quote norm that we can start to dream again and kind of try to build something.
So we've sort of been in this period of like breaking down and not building in a tangible way, but building in an imaginative way, because you know how when you see something for what you've always known it to be, it's hard for you to see it as anything different. But then the facade of it is removed, or the identifiable features are removed. And then you're like, oh, and this could go here, and that could look like that, and this could be this color. And I know that's such a vague description, but
I know what you mean.
Feel like we are moving into a place where we are learning so much about the cracks in the culture and the cracks in the society at large, and what guides the society, the power structures and the power dynamics. And we cannot unsee what we've seen.
No.
So would you say this year is, particularly strong for artists that are out there? Like, do you think there's going to be a lot of inspiration, a lot of communication, a lot of conversations to be had that have previously been stifled?
Well, and I think that this is a continuation of this year. Because, and by this year, I mean last year, 2022. But, 2022 had a lot of very, very vibrant and very unmoored creative energy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, back in April when Jupiter and Neptune came together in Pisces, it just like opened this portal of time where everyone was like, I don't know what's going on. Are we here? Are we there? Are we up? Are we down? It was just like everyone was on drugs for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And I think that left a very subtle but very long-lasting impact on us. And so I think that we are sort of now building the stories and the creativity that then will come to life in time.
So it's more like...
Also, you're in LA, you know that there's always a gap between when something is created and something is like released into the world.
Yeah. So it's more like the things coming to the surface creatively that have been boiling.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that in 2022, we also had this sort of overarching energy that overshadowed a lot of the like dreamy, ethereal stuff with Saturn, and where the eclipses were falling in Taurus and Scorpio. Like the vibes, especially at the end of 2020, were like they were life or death. And that's what we're dealing with when we're dealing with Taurus and Scorpio. Taurus is life and Scorpio is death. Taurus is the body and Scorpio is how the body keeps score. It is like all of the stuff that feels like when you move through, whether you are actually dying or not, it sure does feel like it.
Right.
And so I think that the creative platform met with these life or death sensations. Doesn't that just feel like the perfect combination of incredibly powerful work?
Yeah.
In itself, it's poetry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think that Jupiter is in Aries right now. And that's very focused on the individual and individuating and sovereignty. And pretty quickly, Jupiter will rocket through Aries, and by May, we'll reach Taurus. And I think that is when we will see some things come to life, some things materializing, because we're dealing with Pisces, we're dealing with Aquarius, we're dealing with Aries, but things aren't necessarily built under air, fire, and water energy.
Right.
So we need something in earth to ground us, to just like lay the foundation for something to be built upon it. And so I think there's the potential for when Jupiter moves into Taurus, have a little bit more of a tangible material relationship to how things are changing or what things could possibly be. And I think that when Saturn moves into Taurus, which is like 6 years from now, so we'll cross that bridge. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
We'll just be right here.
We'll be right here, yeah.
That's when I think on a collective level, we really will be doing this massive overhaul and massive building. But that just doesn't happen overnight. We have the vision, and then we have the impulse, and then we build, then, or we have the vision, we have the impulse, we plan, and we build. There are steps. And so we really are at the precipice of this unfolding new world. And it will be what we dream into reality.
Yeah.
Which is why I think that it's so important for us to be really sinking our teeth into this Mars retrograde that we're currently in.
So how do we do that?
Mars is what we do and how we take action. And a Mars retrograde, for me at least, will always bring the question, what do I do and who does it serve? Because Mars is the individual. Ultimately, Mars is like Braveheart, like roaring into battle to satisfy its own desires or its own needs or to serve its own vengeance. If Mars is in Taurus or if Mars is in Scorpio.
Yeah.
But it really begs those questions around like, why do I expend my energy where I do?
Right.
And it gives us the opportunity to question those impulses that we honor because they're autopilot, because they've been built in and sort of baked into the supposed tos.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of those.
But even in social media in the last year, specifically, I would say the last 6 months, just seeing so many people of our generation, of Gen Z, advocating for something different in like a very radical way, or even just advocating for self-awareness and, a lot of like advocating for your own well-being and your own mental health. And like, even if the like people at, the powers that be won't, validate what you already know about yourself, like a lot of the assuming the power for yourself. And that will only carry through with Jupiter or with Pluto and Aquarius, because that is power and Aquarius is the people. And so we really are entering this new era of,
power to the people.
Yeah. The word that came to me was ownership. Not that like the system has ownership over us, but maybe it does.
I think it does.
I'm like thinking of like unionizing. I'm feeling like there might be a lot of unionizing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that the time with Jupiter, I keep saying Jupiter, the time with Pluto in Aquarius will have so much to do with within the structures that already be, how can the people be taken care of? Unionizing and honestly strikes, revolts. I see a lot of that. I see a lot of like decentralizing areas or companies or corporations that have a monopoly on something. I don't think that has a leg to stand on.
Right.
So I think that we're going to see a lot of, how the mighty do fall.
Yes. There's already some, like I was having a conversation last night.
Hopefully.
There's already a lot of, or not a lot, but some healthcare companies that are doing like, you don't need insurance, but you can go in and get a full body scan. And then there's a practitioner there to go over it with you. And you don't have to go through the traditional big pharma and the traditional spots to like pay for specific blood work. It's just radicalizing the way things are done because it doesn't need to be that way, especially when it comes to access to information about our own bodies. It shouldn't have to happen when we're already sick. Obviously, this is like a whole separate conversation, but I think a lot of the big systems, like you said, this is just the way things are. You go to a doctor, you get like, it's not going to stay. We've already proven to ourselves by the pandemic and just the way that corporate America is set up now. No, it can change in a second. We can change it in a second. We just haven't. And so,
even today, I was scrolling through Instagram like you do. And one of the like influencers that I follow, like a thrifting influencer, did like a little reel ad about this company that markets itself as like emergency contraceptive that you can get just like at a, drugstore that is specifically, like not affected by the governmental rulings around restrictions for abortions. It literally is like the government cannot take this pill that we made away from you. So you can come get it whenever you want. And that's like part of their marketing.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just the fact that there are now companies that part of the way that they brand themselves is
openly
subverting the government.
Right.
We're going to have such a good time with Pluto and Aquarius. And I say that with a big exaggerated, like, exuberance because there are so many very powerful systems that will not go down without a fight.
Yeah.
But just the fact that we're seeing the starting of this with Saturn in Aquarius, mobilizing the people and really like bringing us to a breaking point of having to question and pull apart everything.
Yeah. Are there any big transitions or retrogrades that are, I know Mercury retrograde happens frequently, but like any infrequent ones that are going to happen this year that might have a big effect? I remember last year, Venus retrograde really shook my world up and Mars retrograde is weird, but
when was the Venus one?
End of last year, right?
It was June of 2021.
Until the end. Wait.
June of 2021 to Venus? September. And then like, I think it was a couple weeks. Oh, wait, no. Last year. Yeah, you're right. That was 2020. That was 2020, 2021. Yeah. Yes, that was Venus in Capricorn from December through like February, March.
Yep.
That was gnarly. That was really, really gnarly.
Into 2022.
Into 2022. Yeah.
Into 2022.
That was really gnarly. That was like, like on the big scale. And also for me personally, I was like, oh no.
So we have our Mars retrograde now. Mars retrograde happens every 2 years. The last one was in Aries in 2020, fall of 2020. And that was frustrating.
Yeah.
Like even just thinking about that Mars retrograde, my whole body, like, because that one really was like, our foot was like full on the gas, but the car was in neutral. There was like no going anywhere. This one is a little less frustrating. It's a little discombobulating. It's very scattered and frustrating in the way that like, having to kind of check your work and redo things. And like Mars in Gemini prompts us to multitask, but that's like the recipe for having to just like redo everything.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating in that way, but it's not as like viscerally
like walking through mud.
But 2023, we do have another Venus retrograde. They happen every 18 months.
Oh,
and this one is going to be in the sign of Leo. And it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
The thing is, Venus retrogrades, since Uranus has been in the sign of Taurus, which is a Venus sign, Uranus has brought this like radical sort of like upheaval to these Venus retrogrades. We've talked about it before, but just cause Uranus moved into Taurus in the spring of 2018. So that was, and we'll leave Taurus in like, I think 2026. It's a slow moving planet. Uranus is a planet of upheaval, surprise. Like it is the Tower card in the tarot. It's just like full chaos, but necessary chaos. And then ever since the first Venus retrograde was in Scorpio, which is a sign that has a lot to do with with sex in general. And that was when the Me Too movement happened.
Oh, wow.
Oh, right.
The second one was when Venus was in Gemini. And that coincided with the murder of George Floyd and everyone out into the streets using their voice, which is Gemini. Gemini is your community and it is communicating. And then we had a Venus retrograde in Capricorn last year, and that had a lot of Pluto stuff happening. And so there was a lot of like governmental and corporate upheaval. And yeah, then this next one is in Leo. And, you know, I don't necessarily have a really good grasp on what I feel like that will look like or will bring. First, because Uranus is still in Taurus, and Taurus is a sign that is in conflict with Leo. And so they'll kind of be butting heads with each other. And that can bring an extra layer of like, expect the unexpected. But when it comes to Leo, it's our heart, it's our joys, it's our pleasures. It is the things that light us up and make us special. And so it might be a time where you're recognizing the places in which you're not fully seen, or you're not able to take up space, or, when I think about Leo, I just think about like main character energy. And so like, it will also be falling on a time where the eclipses are shifting from Taurus and Scorpio to Aries and Libra, which has a lot to do with the individual and the partnership. And so I think that it will open up a lot of themes that we'll see carry on through the eclipses around how do I relate to the other while maintaining my autonomy, you know, by maintaining my light.
So that's like the themes of the next eclipse cycles, right? Because okay. And then that starts in the spring, or that, because the last Taurus one is in the spring.
The nodes will shift in July, and then the first eclipse we'll actually see in the fall. The first eclipse we'll see in the spring. We'll get like a little peak, and then the nodes will shift, and then we'll get the eclipses like full on in the fall.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm like, I've noticed, and it's always in retrospect, well, because I'm not an astrologer, and so I'm not always aware. I'll know certain things like, oh, Mars is in retrograde, but I don't really always know what everything means. And so then I'll be looking back, and when I've looked back at eclipse season, especially from the fall of 2020 till like now, and then I guess it wraps up in the spring, right? That's all one like chunk of eclipses.
Yeah.
Because for me personally, it's very much in line with what those themes have been. I noticed that it's like, I'll be listening to a podcast about it, and it's like, well, some things that might have started around this month, you might notice them wrapping up now, or some things that might have ended around this time might be popping back up again. And I'm like, it's very literal and it's very specific and it's true. Yeah. So the Libra and Aries one you said, right? So that's kind of going to be an eclipse series based around yourself and like how you relate to others and yourself.
It's me. Aries is me, and Libra is me. So the me within the we.
Oh, Libra is we.
Libra's partnership and balance. And Aries is the self and the sovereign and the autonomous. And so how to balance and bring into harmony being an autonomous, sovereign being while in the reflection of another.
Yeah.
And how to create harmony within that.
Yeah.
Which is easier. I mean, like, that's a very simple description for a very complicated.
Well, and also it affects everybody differently anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And just to piggyback on what you said about looking at things in retrospect, this is my job. This is what I do every day. And I still think that astrology is best utilized in hindsight.
Yeah.
Like, Sure, I love to look ahead, even for me, but I look ahead and it's not like I know what's going to happen.
You can't do anything about it necessarily because you don't know how it's exactly going to manifest for yourself.
Yeah. And I find that I tend to, when it comes to like my own life, I tend to not like check in with what's happening with me so much. I used to, and I would get very wrapped up in making the most of it. And that is capitalism, my friends. That is capitalism. But
I hear you.
But I find that when I feel called to see, okay, well, what was that about yesterday? Or what has been weighing on my heart? Or like, just like what's going on. And I look back, and that gives me context. And that also gives me a lot of information around how I move through things.
Exactly. Which is, I think that you putting it that way is a really cool thing, because I think a lot of people confuse astrology with obviously predicting the future, or just like they think it's just a tool for how to figure out what to do next and what's coming or what you're in the middle of now. But it's really not even like telling you how to act. It's a self-reflection tool. Because when you look back at that and see, and you get that validation of like, oh, this was happening and this is what I was going through. It's not so much about, it goes beyond just matching that up and being like, oh, this was in retrograde and I was being a bitch. Oh, that makes sense. But then it's going into like, okay, so when I feel this way, this is how I treat people. It separates from astrology at that point, but that's what astrology's power is, because that's what carries you on to like, okay, well, next time I feel like this, instead of being like, well, that means there must be a retrograde. It's more like, okay, now I know I shouldn't lash out like this because it has nothing to do with.
It's a tool for reflection. It's a tool for self-understanding and self-discovery. And like, honestly, this year has been really, really rough for me and for Gemini risings in general. And every time I meet another Gemini rising, or I connect with another Gemini rising, I know. I just like to I worked a corporate gig last night where I was giving readings to people, and I did a little reading for this woman who was a Gemini rising. And when I just validated her experience, like I was like, can we hold hands? I just met this woman. I was like, can I hold your hand? And I was like, we have been going through it. And I was just like, we have been put face to face with our demons, and we did not ask for this. And I was like, I don't know what that looks like for everyone, but I know that we're having the Gemini risings in the room. We're having a collective experience. And if I didn't know that, if I didn't know that this is a theme of the year for me, it's so bizarre to witness myself in split screen. And I'm like seeing myself now being like, okay, I know I have to go through this because this is what the year looks like for me. And I didn't know what it was going to bring, but I knew it wasn't going to be fun.
Right.
And the old version of me fully sabotaging everything. I'm seeing like this version of me without the context of what is going on, just completely burning my life to the ground.
Yeah.
But I'm like, we have too much information to do that now.
Yeah, that's well, and if you guys aren't watching YouTube, Alyssa,
I know I need another reading because
me too. I know. Well, if you're not watching YouTube, Alyssa raised her hand because she's also a Gemini rising. But
let's talk.
I also want to do an individual one with you, like top of the year, Jordan, because I just need to refocus on, not focus, but like kind of center myself again on like, okay, what. It's like weirdly, it tells you stuff you already know, but sometimes you need that validation because it's easy in your logical brain to talk yourself out of things that you already know are real or true for you. And then if it's something on the outside that tells you, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm not crazy. Yeah, that's
literally, Molly. You just articulated your eclipse journey.
Like my previous one or my coming one?
2022.
Yes, that's like, what happened.
Yeah, well, because you're a Virgo rising. And so the
Mhm.
eclipses for you are happening in the 9th and the 3rd house, which are the information houses. So you're just like, I have no, what?
Yes.
It's like everything you thought you knew is like, you don't know anymore. And now you have to build this whole new knowing. And you're like, but I don't actually know anything. Well, welcome. And that will pass.
Right.
You know, you'll learn new things.
Right.
But
you will know something.
You're building a new worldview.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, it's like the filter that you wear over your eyes has to change.
Yeah.
And so you're seeing things from a different perspective. They look a little bit different.
Yes.
It's like, I remember this to be this shape, but now it's like askew a little bit.
Right. And there's like
and
certain...
you're adjusting your eyes.
Yeah.
It's like when you know, you're in pitch black darkness and someone turns on the light and you're blinded for a little. It's like your eyes need to like adjust to the light.
That's kind of what it's felt like. Cause it's a little bit like, and also in a weirdly, sometimes it feels really close and personal. And sometimes I feel, well, it's very Aquarius, but weirdly detached from all of it. And I see, I'm just in this place of like intellectually analyzing concepts and things that I'm like, I don't feel too attached or fired up about any of this. I'm just thinking about it. And then I just talk, I'm like, what about Alyssa and I had a really good conversation. Like last week, we just talked for like 5 hours out of nowhere.
Processing so many things.
And just like bringing up like cultural and societal issues and random stuff. But I'm just like, what about this? And sometimes I think about this, but it's as I'm saying the things, I'm like, I don't know if I would call any of this my opinion. It's just things I'm thinking, and I don't know how to articulate.
Like you don't have any opinions yet. You're just like observing everything.
Yes.
And, you know, and that is, I've known you a very long time. And I know you and I love you because you are a person with very strong views. Like almost unshakable views.
It's obnoxious sometimes.
And that's because your 9th house is Taurus. That 9th house is where your beliefs live. It's where we craft an idea of principles and morals. It's our worldview. You know, it's our big picture understanding. And in Taurus, you know, trying to get you to change your perspective or change your mind is like trying to move a mountain.
Right.
But right now, it's like my analogy is wherever we have Taurus in our chart, it's like for our whole life, that place has been a mountain. And all of a sudden we've learned it's a volcano.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not that it's different. We just know it as something different. Like it's always been a volcano, but we just didn't know.
Right.
And so it's like everything that we thought was certain has been obliterated.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel, it doesn't feel, exactly. And it doesn't feel, to me at least, negative. Cause I've had periods in life where you feel like the rug's ripped out from under you and you're like, whoa, everything is a lie. I thought it doesn't feel like that to me this time. It just feels more like, like I'm just watching things happen and I'm just thinking things. And I don't know, that sounds so vague, but I feel more unattached than usual. Like with you said, Taurus, and I am very stubborn in my belief structures and like my principles with certain things. Like I don't have structure for a lot of things in my life, but where I do, I'm like really strong on it. And I think I've just been like easing up on myself on some of that. Just like, what do I think about this? That's interesting. Maybe no. Okay. It's just really weird.
But that's exactly like what is being asked of you. It's like, because wherever we are changing or transforming, we're asked to just let the fuck go. Just like let go and see what happens. Which I mean is so much easier said than done. But the fact that it's happening for you, for Virgo risings and for Pisces risings on the mental plane, it's a little bit easier to let go of like that sort of
mental constructs,
mental stuff or cerebral stuff, perspective stuff. It's still disorienting. But you know, there isn't the same amount of scarcity if it were more material. Or emotional. Or emotional, which is sort of where it is for Alyssa.
I was literally just going to say, I was like, mine's more about like, I'm feeling things and I don't know why. It's my relationship with fear that's been like a test this year.
That
I was like, wow, like that. Because when you were describing yours, it's like, wow, I wish I could literally have thoughts that go along because I have zero. It's just feelings. My body reacts. And I'm just like, what do you mean? What the fuck are you doing? Like, like upset.
Yeah.
Like
the
you feel
way that I have
disconnected.
expressed it, because the eclipses for us are falling in the 12th house, which is the house of the subconscious, where all of our fears and all of our disassociated parts and all of our demons live. And the 6th house, which is like our daily life and how we take care of ourselves.
Oh, wow.
And we have been thrust into the 12th house. And from my perspective, the way that I'm communicating it is it feels like I am living underwater.
Yeah.
Like there is the separation of me being underwater and everything happening in the surface. And like, I can see it and I can hear you, but everything's like a little bit like wavy.
Right. Yes, there's a little dog here.
But there's this like distance, I feel like sometimes I'm like in an echo chamber.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And there's also like all of this facing fears and having to like deal with some, old limiting beliefs or phobias that maybe you thought you had neglected enough that they went away, or you had done that before.
Right.
And it's showing up in your daily life as how you have to make space for those things. Like I am like taking meds for the first time in a decade because I learned that I have ADHD, and that's like 6th house is chronic health for us. It's Scorpio. So a lot of psychological health. And so having to like, I'm going to more doctors because I am like in a space of deeper reflection and I'm seeing, I want to take care of myself better, And so it's like it's like your psychic and spiritual health versus your like physical, mental health.
Yeah. How's your sleeping?
At the beginning of all of this, my sleeping was terrible. I was like insomnia. And now I'm like, if I could just wake up in April, I would be cool with that.
Okay. Good to know.
But that's just because I'm renovating a house and I'm really hoping it's done in April and that I could just like wake up and move in. But that's just me.
That would be, honestly, that's kind of a dream. But I was going to say from the outside, as like you two are like two of my closest friends in life. And so this just goes to show, and you hear this all the time, but it's like things on the surface, there's so many good things that can be happening in your life. And if you were to tell yourself, 3 years ago, okay, well, this year, like for you, Jordan, okay, well, in 2022, you're going to be like getting engaged, like building a house, and you're going to be like moving out to and it's like all amazing stuff that I know you're like, it's all good things, but you can't articulate those. That doesn't equal an easy year. And like for you, Alyssa, you've been working a lot this year. Like you're creatively in your career, everything's like, you have momentum and all this stuff is going well. And it's like, it just is a reminder for all of us to not take even our closest friends, like outside life as a sign of how they're really doing or how this year is feeling to them.
Oh, yeah, especially if they're Gemini rising, because they're going to wear a smile on their face regardless.
Exactly. But you know what? I feel like there's
so true.
I don't know if this was a 2022 thing, maybe, but or if it's a creative thing. Jordan, maybe you have a little bit of insight on this, because I have found in 2022, a lot of my friends, they're the friends that I like, we try to reconnect every couple months. We'll be like, let's get a coffee or and there were a number of friends where we tried and failed, including you and me for Skype dates multiple times.
Literally for a year.
Oh, for a year. And this happened in person with people that live in LA. And I feel like 80% of the time, one of us would be like, it would fall through. And then one of us is like, sorry, I just had a really hard week. Or like, sorry, I couldn't do that. Depression. Like, sorry, I couldn't. And it's like, and then when one of us said that, the other one's like, yeah, me too. Okay, let's try again next week. Like, and it was just a whole year of that.
Literally the strength it took for me to not cancel on this podcast.
Yes.
I love you. And I had already canceled twice. So just like in practice. Yes. And I honestly feel like that has so much to do with the weight of the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio. And as they're in Taurus and Scorpio, Saturn in Aquarius is forming this very sort of like tense. It really does feel like everything is life or death, because to an extent, everything is life or death. You know, we are all moving through these immense mini deaths or macro deaths, you know, and that requires mourning. But there is this very palpable like layer of grief that I think, because we don't necessarily know where it's coming from, or so many of us are experiencing these mini deaths, but not literal deaths, that we're like, well, I'm sad, but I don't know why. It's like, no, you're grieving. You're grieving. And that's necessary. That's how we close the loop. And that's how we are able to begin again. And so giving ourselves, I even saw a, you know, reel on Instagram, scrolling today, that was just like this woman talking about being sad. And her therapist said, if you were happy, you would never try to make yourself not feel happy. Like that sadness deserves just as much space as your happiness.
Ooh, that's a good way to put it.
And sometimes there is no reason for it. I think in the video, it was like, I just loved how she put it. The therapist was like, sometimes there's no reason to be sad. Sometimes it's just the way the light hits the trees.
Yes. Oh, that gave me chills. That's so beautiful. Yeah, that really like full body chills. That's so poetic. But that's the same reason with happiness. You know, sometimes you wake up and you're just like, you know, it's for no reason and it amuses you, but you're just like, I am feeling good today. And you're like, you know, there's no reason, but you don't question it. You just go with it. And so it's like, well, we got to do that with the others too. It's like, it's just, you know, what they tell you when you're craving a certain food. And then if you try to talk, like say you're just, all I want is pizza. And then I'm like, no, I'm going to be good and I'll have a salad tonight. And then the next day you're still craving pizza, but you're like, well, I'll just have a little bowl of pasta. And you just don't have the pizza. Eventually, within a week, you're gonna eventually have some fucking pizza. You just have what you're craving, and it's like the
pizza too many times. Now I'm like, I must have pizza or I'm gonna die.
You just said the word pizza way too many times. But it's like at some point, the lesson, I think it's like you can push off feelings, cravings, emotions, whatever. You can push them off, but you're gonna have to face them at some point, whether it's today or you wait till next week. They're going to haunt you until you deal with it, like at the end of the day. And you can't replace it with something else. And like, oh, well, I'll have pizza flavored Pringles. Or like, oh, I'm kind of sad, but I'll like, you know, I'll pick a fight and I'll get angry at someone. You're still not dealing with your sadness. You're turning it into something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
God.
I mean, I was going to say, like, we were just talking about this in our end of the year recap for 2022. About our feelings and how we've been this year. And I even said something about like, I wish I could just, I think you asked like, what was one advice you'd give yourself for the year?
Oh yeah. Or what you learned.
What you learned. Yeah. That you could carry on to the next. And I had said reminding myself that everything's going to be okay. You know, it's never as bad as you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because this might kind of transition to my next question, but I don't want to keep you for too long because, you know, we're talking about, you know, different risings and how they correlate or relate to the different eclipses and retrogrades coming up. But I find it so interesting, and maybe this is a Gemini rising thing, but I remember a lot of times throughout this year, I have another friend, Ari, who's really into astrology and is so like just on it. And they'll like text me like, "Oh my God," or like, "Have you felt that? Are you feeling this?" Da, da, da. And I'm like, "No."
Are they a Gemini rising?
No, I forget what they are.
Virgo rising.
I forget.
They're Libra moon, and they're similar to me. I think they're Virgo rising and Libra moon.
Oh my God, really?
I think because I met them.
Because you met them on my birthday.
Yeah, we bonded over that. But anyway.
But oh fuck, they say it all. I'm so bad at memorizing that. But it'll like sometimes I feel off with the eclipses, and I don't know. And sometimes I just don't. I forget, or I'm not in it. Yeah.
The people who share your rising sign are the people you are walking parallel through life with. So Alyssa, you and I are moving through parallel experiences. It affects us differently because our planetary, positions are in different places. But as the planets move through the signs, Mars is in Gemini right now. Mars is in our first house, activating for us the themes of self. While Mars is going to be somewhere else, activating other themes for another rising sign. So when you are like, I need someone to kvetch and cavil about life with, find someone with your rising sign or someone with your opposite sign. So for us, that would be Gemini risings like us, or a Sagittarius rising, because they're going through a mirrored experience. And so sometimes it's really helpful to hear what the mirror experience is. But your rising sign people are your people. And those are going to be the individuals who have an innate understanding of your personal rhythms.
Interesting.
Do you have any sort of maybe broad predictions about certain risings or anything that's coming up that might conflict with some eclipses,
like
some retrogrades?
In the category of elements, like for air risings or what?
Yeah, is there any like tough periods, or really just people are going to stand out in a good way?
Well, I'll go by like the modality. So the fixed risings right now, which are Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpio, are going through it. Like, I want to give them all a hug. So just all at once. But because the eclipses are happening in fixed signs, the eclipses are happening on their angles, and that makes a very personal eclipse cycle. And
these are sun signs or rising?
For the risings. It's rising, yeah. But also, if you're a Taurus sun, it's going to affect you too. It's just not going to fall in the same space.
Yeah.
So like the Taurus and Scorpio risings are like in transformation right now. Like every time I talk to specifically a Scorpio rising, but a Taurus or Scorpio rising, I talk about a caterpillar. And I talk about how when a caterpillar is called to swaddle itself in a cocoon, does it know what it will become? Chances are it doesn't. But right now they're in a cocoon and they are changing. And in the process of change, you can't really expect too much from a caterpillar in a cocoon. They can't do what they did before they were in the cocoon. So to offer grace.
Yeah.
To be
that's
in
a really good way to put it.
And so it's similar for the Leo and Aquarius risings, but that's sort of happening on a like a life trajectory level. It's like so like the Aquarius risings might feel like things are moving really quickly and big life things are happening in an unprecedented way. And the Leo risings might feel like they can't get a leg up and they keep taking one step forward, two steps back. And so the fixed rising signs are really, really going through it right now. So if you have a friend who's a fixed rising sign, buy them a latte.
Yeah.
Because there's also a lot of scarcity going on, a lot of like hoarding mentality, and they're really feeling the impact of that. For the fixed, that's fixed. For the cardinal risings, that is Aries, Libra. I know my signs: Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. They had a really rough go from 2020 to 2021. And now Jupiter moving into Aries will be a nice expansion point. They'll get a break from Jupiter, or they'll get a break from Pluto and Capricorn for a minute. And so they have this like moment to like breathe. And so give yourself like a pat on the back. You did it. You got through a lot. Cardinal risings. And then the mutable risings, that's all of us in this room. For us, what's going on for us? Oh, we have Saturn and Pisces. Okay. So there's some sort of necessary up-leveling happening in a crucial part of our chart. So whether that be in the realm of self or the other, the relationship on the home front, on the public front, there is some responsibility to be taken. There is the potential to really see the fruits of your labor if you've been working towards something, and the potential to really step into your own, whether that be in a holistic way or in a specific area of life, in the realm of like achievement or, you know, personal achievement, that sort of thing.
I feel like that I felt for a lot of 2022 and 21, and then it just like escalated to 2022. Like, I don't know in what realm of my life or if it's multiple. It kind of feels like multiple, but I really don't know. I just feel like I'm right on the precipice of like something that's going to feel big. And I don't know what that means. I don't even know. It's just such a vague thing to say, but it's like, I feel it's very specific though. It's not like in other years where it's like, oh yeah, good things are coming, or in general, it feels very much like I'm just like creeping up right at the top of a roller coaster before you like, and in a good way. It feels positive. I just don't know what it means or what I even think it's going to be. But what you're saying kind of makes sense then, because I've had this feeling for like the last 2 years at least. And this year, 2022, it just got even more where I was like frustrating at times because I'm like, I feel like I'm like right there, but nothing's happening, but I don't know what's going to happen. It's weird. But yeah, that tracks.
I will say the fact that Gemini, or the fact that Mars retrograde is happening at the top of your chart, I think really has the opportunity to, you know, maybe the frustration of like be on the precipice of something. It's like you're there, but it's like you're one notch off.
Yeah.
It's like you're oriented just like, you need one tighter belt loop or something.
That's exactly.
And I feel like this Mars retrograde really reflecting and really like, bringing intention and awareness to how you utilize your energy, how you use your time, because as a Virgo risings love to be kept busy and love to do a lot, but doing a lot isn't always productive. And so it might ask you to consolidate so that you can bring more of yourself into what you're doing rather than spreading yourself thin.
Yeah. Yeah. Because 2021, I was spread super thin. And then this past year I did better, but I also don't know. I guess it depends if I'm doing stuff I love, then I like to be busy, but I also don't, not in the social realm necessarily. Like if there's people there's my people that I want to do stuff with, but I'm not like, oh, let's go out. Like I'm a hermit.
I mean more in a work sense.
Oh, okay. You're like, no, I know you.
No, I know you.
Yeah. Stay away.
I'm like, I know Molly's curled up in bed with a book. I know a glass of wine. I know my girl.
Yep. That's it. Jordan, thank you so much. And we're at a 3-hour time difference for you guys listening. So thank you extra, Jordan, because it's like 10:15 for you. Thank you for doing this. I know it's like a chunk of your time and the time zone is inconvenient and you're really going through it as a Gemini rising. So I want to send you all the love.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel truly like so out of sorts right now. So I hope that anything I said made sense.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
But if it didn't, we'll just do it again next year, right?
It's fine. It's fine.
We're
going to have you on. I mean, we got to get you in when Pluto comes into
Aquarius.
Yes.
And also we're going to link people. Well, are you currently doing personal readings still? Did you take a break from that? Right?
No. Yeah. Okay. Please get a reading with me. Or gift a reading.
Yes. Oh, that's a good gift idea.
That's what Ryan gifted.
Pardon?
Ryan gifted Jordan to me.
Oh, is it Ryan gifted Jordan to her? No, I said that's a great idea for gifts, like for birthdays and gift Jordan. Yes.
I also offer astro auras.
Those are beautiful.
A colored depiction of your sun, moon, and rising, and that can be of any moment. So, like your first kiss with your partner, or you graduated, whatever.
Oh, that's so
cute?
Cool. That's so cute.
So it can be like any moment. It can even be like your 4th birthday if that feels.
Oh my gosh! Like
good.
So you just
day for you.
do like the astrology of that moment. And then,
and so I create
cool.
a color aura of that. And then I'm just doing my plugs.
Yes,
and
please.
then I write a weekly newsletter called Astrologically Speaking.
I love
an advice
your newsletter.
And every week I take an anonymous question and I address it. I've been saying I answer it, but I don't actually answer it. I just address it through the lens of astrology. Who am I to answer people's
But also
questions?
they're not really questions that you can you just give astrological context. And like through that lens, you said, yeah.
And that has been just like the greatest joy to write. So you can find that on Substack. If you look up Astrologically Speaking or Your Astrologer Friend, because that's me. That's
I have her newsletter and I love it. It's like it's just like a point. Well, I can't even talk right now. A point of peace within my week. I blacked out for the last like hour.
We like listen to this back and it's all in pig
Literally
Latin.
saying, I'm like covered in sweat. I have no idea what can happen.
Perfect. That's how we like to leave them. Jordan, I love you.
Also, just one more thing. The weekly newsletter is a written and audio newsletter because I am neurodivergent and I have a hard time like reading large bodies of text because my brain is what it is. I also record the podcast or the newsletter. So if you feel so inclined to listen to me talk for between 6 and 10 minutes, then you can listen to it that way.
I want your voice in my apartment at all times. I honestly play your episodes sometimes just to hear you talking. But thank you so much, Jordan.
Thank you so much.
We love you, and we'll talk to you soon. We'll get our personal readings as well.
Yeah.
I love you guys so much. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
As always.
Sleep well. Sweet dreams. I'll talk to you soon. We'll do a Zoom.
Sweet dreams to me.
Yes, sweet dreams. Wow.
I love her.
I love her so much. I want her to live with me and be my roommate again, like when we were 18.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Everything she said is just, I like how she related it, actually, astrology to just basically being a self-reflection tool, as opposed to like trying to use it to like, where am I now on a map and present timing and how do I utilize this to the best right now? That's a little bit less realistic of a way to look at astrology, I believe, and the way that she breaks things down, it makes a lot of sense. Also, it just feels like this year is not looking so rough. It looks like a culmination of the roughness we have just experienced.
I think what I took a lot from it was the theme of rebirth, lessons.
Yeah.
I mean, every year you're going to have lessons, of course, but I think, I don't know, like there seems to be, why is my brain going
My
here?
brain. Oh, yes. I support it.
A shedding, like a uterine lining.
Uterine lining. Yes. Yes. The good old uterine lining shedding.
What's wrong with me? I'm like,
but it is like that.
Literally, I was picturing her talking to her. I was like, oh, it's like the world is menstruating.
Oh, yes. Yes. We are menstruating as a planet.
Should that be the title?
Oh, God. It's going to be misleading. People aren't going to know it's astrology.
Shedding like a uterine lining.
Shedding the uterine lining of 2020.
When you see this, there'll be a title. So let's...
If you've made it this far,
let's see how...
Thank you, and we're very sorry, because this is a very rambly...
We're very giggly, as always, honestly. Yeah. But, yeah, I love... Oh, God, I love her, and everything that she said made so much sense, especially as a fellow Gemini rising. Geminin rising. And yeah, and I hope everybody goes to her Instagram at Jordan Shomer. Please subscribe to her newsletter, Astrologically Speaking. You can find that on her Instagram website. We'll have everything. Please book her. The aura.
Oh yeah,
color.
the aura, not paintings, but yeah, the artwork she does with auras. I love that.
Sounds amazing.
Also, we've mentioned before, so she does one-on-one readings, but she also does synastry readings, which is how your chart works with someone else's in your life, a best friend, a mother, a father, a significant other.
And maybe you're a newer listener and you don't know, but like me and Molly had a synastry reading. That was our first episode with Jordan. So please go back if you haven't, or go back just to see how right she's been about everything.
Exactly.
Because it's eerie and
It's almost more fun to listen to the episodes in retrospect. Like,
yes,
if you are down with our Jordan episodes, you might want to now go to the top of 2022 and listen to her year in review and see how, or whatever, year ahead.
Yep.
See how it played out for you.
And follow us on Instagram at the SOS Pod. And we are on YouTube, SOS with Molly and Alyssa. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you find podcasts, we are there. Please rate and review us as well, because it really helps us reach more people.
And we're also on Patreon. And if you want to hear our like embarrassing false start introductions where we just take a left turn and
we got dark, and we're gonna put that on Patreon.
Yeah, that's on Patreon. Extended interviews, exclusive content, merch, everything. So please support us on Patreon. And I'm Molly Cottrell.
I'm Melissa Rosano.
Here's to turning meltdowns
into magic.